Hello, flickin' fanatics. It is Jesse Swift. I am still alive, just haven't been doing anything for a bit, but it's good to see you guys. I hope you have your 20-sided die ready. We're about to dive into Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. I'm joined by my good buddy and co-host, Sean Wingblade. We are, you know what? I wish I could start this over, but I can't, so it's okay. Hope you're ready. We're not ready, but we're ready for you. See you guys in a minute. Go ahead and dock my pay.
It was exactly as you practiced. We rehearsed this for the last 20 minutes. That's why we kept pushing the time. We were going to go live at 7, but Jesse just had to nail the intro.
So I rolled for charisma. I got a nat 1, and it wasn't great.
You know what? As the non-D&D game player, I'm going to guess those are a reference to the game, but I'm going to have to rely on your expertise for this.
For anyone that doesn't know, isn't familiar, I've only played some D&D. I got a little bit into a campaign. It was too hard to get the exact group of people that we had together. We have now just recently started a new campaign with my brother and sister-in-law, who are new parents that are going to be home for several months. So we know that their schedules are consistent.
They have plenty of time.
Exactly. So we started a new campaign. Very excited to get into that. If you didn't already know, Dungeons and Dragons, and I think this is very well reflected in kind of important in this movie. Yeah, it's about chance, right? That's the right reason they have you're rolling the dice, right? Mm-hmm. And so many times, you have these different stats. It's like you need to roll for charisma, roll for initiative, and all these other things. And that's how the game kind of keeps going, is you never know what to expect. And so the one of the biggest dice, I guess there's one that goes up to 100, but the big important dice is the 20-sided dice. Well, it's in tens. It's like a 10-sided, but it's like 0, 10, 20, or whatever. Anyways, okay. There's the 20-sided die. It's the really popular one where it's always like you have to roll to see if you can attack, to see if your attack lands or whatever else. If you land on a 1, it's like the worst possible outcome. Usually you have all these buffers that add on to like, you have a +3 stat or +4. If you land on a 1, you're dick out of luck. There's nothing you can do. You land on a 1, it's like you tripped and impaled yourself on your own sword. You take 5 hit point damage, stuff like that. And then the opposite end is if you get a 20, naturally, like it just lands on 20 without any buffs or anything, it's the best possible outcome. It's like, yeah, you hit whatever that was. You did whatever incredible thing you were attempting to do. It worked. Great for you.
Right.
So that's kind of one of the fun things. And I'm probably going to make references at least to the die when talking about spoilers with this movie. Because, for example, this is your warning, guys. This is a spoiler review. It's going to be a chaotic spoiler review. Probably going to bounce around a little bit. But Hugh Grant, Forge, right? At the end of the movie, he tries to pull the same thing that Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez did, and takes Jonathan and runs directly into a wall. He rolled a 1. So that's a good example. But Sean, you got to see the movie a little after me, but still early. I haven't gotten to talk in great detail. I've been waxing poetic about Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves from the directors and writers of Game Night, a very underrated comedy, if you haven't seen it, with Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams. And Jesse Plemons in what I think is the role of a lifetime. But what did you think about this movie, man?
Aside from Jesse Plemons' take on Frito-Lay's poor business decisions, I thought they did a great job with this movie. And the extent of my D&D knowledge is none. I feel like a D&D proper game master or player has to be in the realm of creativity, like writing wise, when you're coming up with stories and stuff like that, because you have to really imagine and create what you want your character to do and where the story is going to progress. And I don't ever see myself that way. That's why I play video games, because other people make the story and I get to play the story that they have set before me. Because when I play RPGs, if I'm supposed to go straight, I go left and I go right and I go this way and that way, and sometimes I'll go backwards and then I'll go forward.
That is exactly why you would have so much fun from a player standpoint in D&D.
Maybe one day we'll get to that.
The dungeon master might tell you what you're doing, where you're supposed to go, but you might see something shiny off to the left, and your journey goes, and the dungeon master has to roll with the punches. Yeah. And I feel like there's a lot of that in this movie because the MacGuffin changes every 30 minutes.
Absolutely, yeah. So my extent of D&D knowledge comes from basically like Stranger Things, and then watching, shout out to a friend of the show, Sean Sullivan. Like he does some good stuff on his Twitch channel, and I know he and PJ spent a whole stream like creating PJ's character. Basically, it was like 3 hours long. They just, and that was fun to watch too. So that's kind of my extent of D&D knowledge. I mean, I saw the original movie 20 years ago when it first came out, and many people hated that film, and deservedly or not, however you feel about it. It wasn't very popular. It was nothing something I went back to, but I am familiar with the types of characters that we see in this film. Mages, of course, bards, druids, sorcerers, like
barbarians,
just from playing video games, because I do play a lot of like fantastical or like medieval type of like games and stuff. Yeah, Diablo with you. We're always playing late night stuff. So I'm familiar with those types of characters, and then the adventure aspect of the movie, and all of that stuff drew me in. I think if you're just a fan of adventure movies and action movies in general, like it will draw you in, and they do just enough of a description of, we have to go do this thing, and we have to get this helmet, and we have to get this charm, and we have to go past this one sorcerer's spell that can only be unlocked by this other MacGuffin that we have to go grab first. So they jump. As long as you're along for the ride and you're just like, you don't have to remember every moment, like every word that they're telling you, or every location, because they throw out a lot of names that are probably in the overall D&D story.
And they are, but they don't, like, the story doesn't hinge on these things. Like, there is, of course, a central location of the movie is Neverwinter. Guess what? Neverwinter is a place. They reference bringing the rich folk to play in the High Sun games, and they're people from Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate's a huge thing with D&D, but doesn't
Baldur's
matter.
Gate was the name of one of their
the
game. Was it a Elder Scrolls game or something? I can't remember.
No, it wasn't Elder Scrolls. Baldur's Gate was its own thing, and it kind of emulated. It's the closest a video game has gotten to the experience of D&D.
Okay,
that's kind of what Baldur's Gate is. Big on the computer. They haven't done much with the console version of Baldur's Gate, but anyways, that's another story. But yeah, and the particular spell that's blocking the safe or whatever, that's an actual character. It's like, oh, it's a whatever they called the spell. They said somebody's name. I don't know. I'm not a D&D expert. I just like know enough to like a couple things. I'm like, aha, or I've seen that race before, like Jarnathan. The eagle people, and then I know that the cat people that Ray J. Jean Page pulled, like the baby cat out of the giant catfish's mouth. Those are tabaxi. Like I know that character because in our last campaign that we played, my sister-in-law was a tabaxi. That was her character, and so we saw him. We're like, and which brings me to something that I want to talk about. It's not really a spoiler, even though we are talking about spoilers. But the great blend of CGI with practical effects. The CGI isn't the greatest CGI I've ever seen, but nor is it distractingly bad. It's like this comfortable middle point. But they blend well, which is important. When you
they used enough costuming too, and practical makeup to make people look realistic enough, instead of just painting them with dots and then CGing it over, or like a Marvel movie where like Ant-Man, Iron Man, like everyone who wears a suit, they're not wearing their suit on stage, they're just wearing a mocap suit and then they CG it over towards. And you could feel there was a tangibleness to all of the most of the stuff we were seeing on screen. Obviously not everything, like the owlbear or the big monster and stuff at the end, the dragons and whatnot.
And I know that there was a little bit of skepticism when the first trailer came out, or even when some of the casting was announced. There was, whether people were familiar with D&D or not, were a little concerned with the direction that they were taking it, because there's some people that think this should be the next, Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, which I combated that immediately. Obviously, maybe I don't have a place to talk because I have not lived my entire life in D&D, but Dungeons and Dragons, to me, at the end of the day, the reason you keep coming back is because it's fun.
Right.
There's epic moments, there's cool things that happen, there's great imagination, but as long as the imagination's still on display, it should be kind of hysterical and should not take itself too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there was a very specific tone that could have gone wrong either way. Like it could have taken itself too seriously or not seriously enough and just been a mess. And it balanced it so well. These are very capable creators. You can tell that they are fans of both, not just Dungeons and Dragons, but the genre as a whole, the fantasy. And we haven't had, this movie feels special to me. It's not just fun. It feels special because I don't think there's a lot of films like this in the last, at least 10 years. I feel like it scratches a specific itch.
It felt like classic Marvel in the classic MCU in the sense of where it was still this fun and wonderment before everyone was so concerned about canon and timelines and this and that and everything. It just kind of was like, I'm just going to take it as it comes. And whatever the story tells me is fine. I'm not going to worry about watching. No offense if you're watching the spoiler review, but I'm not going to worry about, ending explained videos and how does this tie into the greater universe. No, you don't need to care about any of that. Just go in and have a good chuckle and a smile. And there was quite a few things. One, emotional beats, especially towards the end in the third act.
And was almost
comedy throughout the entire movie that had me like actually laughing out loud. It was good times.
And I think the trailers did a great job. Like you may have gotten the sense that when you watch the trailers, these might be the best parts because it seemed to really be focusing on the humor in the trailers. And like, oh, that's the funniest part. Actually, no, what was in the movies was either worded differently, different context, or it was the beginning of a joke.
Sure.
Like the part they show about the guy they bring back to life and ask the 5 questions to. And then it's like, did that count? Yes. Damn it.
Yeah, that was one of what 20 dead guys that
they were all hilarious. The guy that he's like, I fell and that's all I remember. He's like, well, and then you got up and went into the battle, right? No, I died.
Nope, I know. I died. They cut to a flashback. He slips onto like a bar of soap or something. He just got out of the bath and he dies naked during the middle of a huge battle that's going on outside of his tent. He's like, all right,
seen this movie twice. And my audience had a blast both times. And it's been a while since I felt like just such a communal experience where like everyone was in sync of having just a blast.
Right. That's fun.
Who did you go with again?
I went by myself because the day, I bought tickets a couple weeks ago for the early screening. It's a 1 week early. We saw it last Sunday, and even though it came out yesterday. And my daughter and my son were supposed to go. I knew my wife was busy that day. So the day of, and I had talked about my wife scheduled a play date for my daughter. And I was very disappointed, but like she already had her friend over. And I was like, we're leaving for a movie. Oh my God, I totally forgot. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Okay. And then I go to leave and my son's like, yeah, I don't want to go. What? Like, what? I literally bought these tickets for you. You've been talking about how excited you were to see the movie. And he's like, I have a headache. I just don't want to leave the house. I just kind of want to sit in my room. All right, if you don't, I was like, you don't feel good? He's like, no, I just want to lay down. I was like, do you need something? He goes, no, I just don't want to go. I'm like, what? All right, well, you know what? I'm not going to force you to go so you have a miserable time. maybe I should have. Bad father moment. I should have forced my kid to go do something.
Here's a question
against his will.
I guess you don't have, for your theaters, you don't have a subscription thing, right?
Yeah, we do, totally do.
Oh, you do. Okay. Are you planning or wanting to see this again?
I mean, maybe, but there's so many other movies I want to see. I still haven't seen John Wick, so like, there's other films I need to get to. I think Tetris came out yesterday.
That's a streaming one, isn't it?
Is it? Maybe.
I think it's Apple TV, but I could be wrong.
Oh, well, then, all right. I don't have to go to the theaters for that. I'm not 100% sure. Why?
Well, I'm quite possibly Monday seeing it for a third time. So there's that.
Okay. Oh, I was going to say you should come down to SAC. We'll go see it together.
Dude, at some point we need to have some kind of movie event where we can have a out of the theater, reaction and go see something. Yeah, I was about to go off on all the movies that I'm excited to see in April, but we're here to talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
And this is, in fact, a spoiler review, too. So we should probably talk about some spoilers. Because I think so far we've really just touched on our feelings about the films over like the tone of the movie.
We're just so excited to talk together because I had my review that I dropped by myself, just kind of like an out of the theater reaction. Soups early. That's on the channel now if you want to see the high I was riding after watching this. But I think a good thing to start with is how do we think the characters were handled? I think
like the different classes.
Well, yeah, the classes, and I was going to comment earlier on one of the strengths of the movie is, yes, there is bits of exposition dump, but they find such fun ways to give it to us, whether it is from Zinc, the paladin, giving us exposition, or talking to all the dead bodies about the battle and what happened with the helmet, or Egwin right at the very beginning when he was in jail and he was pleading his case. And I thought that was a clever way to get that done in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
I'm glad you remembered his name, because I was just going to say Chris Pine, the second best Chris.
Egwin, hang on. Helga, Doric, Simon, Forge, and so I'm trying to remember the Red Wizard's name.
I think just Sophia?
Sophina.
Yeah. I remembered Simon because it's an easy name, and Helga because she played the best version of what Drax wants to be.
Yeah, I agree.
If that makes sense.
It was Drax, but less of a she was funny, but I felt like she was less of a punchline.
Sure. Yeah.
There was more to her than just being the strong dope.
Yeah, and to run very quickly through the storyline, Chris Pine has a family. His wife gets killed. He's trying to find redemption to bring his wife back to life. He gets sent to jail with his best friend Helga, and then they break out. They realize they were double crossed, and they stole his daughter. And now it's a quest to get his daughter back. So So basically, they set that up perfectly for Helga's storyline too, and the daughter, who I can't remember now. I can't remember her name now.
That's a character's name. I forgot. I was it's so good.
But when they were doing the montage of her growing up, right? They showed all these beautiful things of her growing up in this a village raises a family, right, type of thing.
Yeah.
And she never knew her mother, so she never knew what she was missing. Chris Pine was pining after his dead wife the entire time, but she had her family and she had her mother figure. And you could see it from the beginning when they were going to do the resurrection stone. I'm like, oh, okay. No, I knew exactly where it was going to go. And then when we got to the end of the movie and Helga dies, spoiler review, right? I was like, oh yeah, of course, that's exactly what they were going this whole entire time, and it brought out the tears. I was like, it got me. And she was just like, the daughter's like, yeah, so use it. We can only use this once. Yeah, use it on her. The daughter, that's my mom. That was her mother. That was her mom. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think they obviously hinted at it a couple times. It's more obvious the second time I watched it, but there's when he has this big heart-to-heart with what he thinks is his daughter, but turns out to be Sophina, and he's like, I wasn't being honest with you. I wanted to I didn't want to bring back your mom. I wanted to bring back my wife.
Yes, exactly.
And for her, there's a difference there. Because and it shouldn't have worked as well as it does because it's Michelle Rodriguez, Fast and Furious fame. But every time she called her Bug, I just thought it was so endearing and adorable. And I think what makes this, I won't say franchise yet because it's the first movie, but potential franchise work.
I hope so. I hope it made what, 40 million? I hope it makes so much more.
I hope it crushes and just has legs. Because I want to see more from it. And you could do literally anything. You just have to keep talented people behind it. But you have to care about the characters.
Yeah.
And I'm so conflicted because part of me wants to see them come back. Part of me is like, okay, what's the next campaign? What's the next group of fun celebrities that are going to have a great time doing this movie? And there's who's to say that, paths can't intersect.
Right.
And all of a sudden Egwin the Bard shows up at a tavern in somebody else's story, or something like that. But it's really limitless. And I haven't been this excited for the doors to be blown open on what a franchise could be in a while.
Any one of them could go off and just join another group and go on a different adventure. And I think I'd be right along for the ride. What was the name of the Druid?
Doric.
Okay, so she was a ton of fun. And I know she was from It. I didn't know her from anything else. I haven't seen It, so I didn't know the actress themselves. But she did a fantastic job. And I love the little storyline, between her and Simon and how he had to learn his confidence. And basically, like when he finally puts the helmet on in the end, and he confronts his older self, which we find
he basically has to punch his own doubt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was a great sequence too, of just overcoming your fears and overcoming the doubt that's your self-doubt. It's not doubt from the external world, it's doubt from inside. You just overcome it to actually get the confidence to do what you need to do. So that was a good time. But I would love to see her go off and do another thing. She was, I think, maybe my funnest character too, because I think I like the shape-shifting aspect of it too. So because it was a ton of fun. There was a really cool montage when they were going through the castle, and then
I was
like,
gonna say that, like, all that it's shot as a one shot.
Yeah,
it's all the transformations, and the trailer made me think it's like, oh, she can turn into an owl bear, and like that's her thing.
Right.
No, she can do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, turn to anything.
And what was interesting, Lauren and I had a +1 each time we went and saw. Mm-hmm. The first time we went with one of our work friends, hated it.
Oh,
he thought it sucked, and I was like, wow.
I'm sorry, she can't be friends with him anymore.
That's what all of us have said. We've all said that. We're like, we're sorry you're done being friends. Yeah, he's just like, oh, it's just so derivative, and like I've seen a million movies like this, and I was like, wow, what's it like to just hate things?
It's okay to like things.
Yeah, and then we saw it with her other friend the following time, and she loved it much like we did. But it was just, this movie's so full of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And
everything that worked the first time worked the second time. I love the giant dragon, the chubby dragon. It's not just big; it's like sliding on like its belly down like the collapsing cavern.
And then as it's coming to just eating as the gold and stuff just slides into its mouth.
Again, D&D is funny. Like if you have a good dungeon master, they're going to present you with ridiculous things that are going to have you laughing. Playing Dungeons and Dragons should feel like a party.
Sure.
I think, anyways.
Absolutely. So. I do think it's not all perfect. I hate this is part of the problem I had with the Shazam Fear of the Gods movie, was when you're gonna set up rules for your power set, like for your character's powers, you have to kind of follow your rules. Okay. So I thought that the Sophina, the Red Wizard.
Yeah, it's kind of a genderless term.
She was very OP, just overpowered in the beginning of the movie, and then when it comes time to fight her at the end, she all of a sudden just lost all sense of how do I fight using my powers, where I can literally just freeze time and all the characters stop moving, which she used earlier on. And I'm like, all right, cool. How are you going to battle her?
You can't magic away every situation, and maybe
sure.
If you're playing D&D, you get limited spell slots. So if you used a spell like Time Stop, you get one. And then that's it. And she tried to use Time Stop, but then what's-her-butt put the thing on her.
Yes.
When she went to use it.
Right. But I'm talking about just prior to that moment. When she was actually fighting them, she was going fisticuffs on them, and it's like, instead of just like freezing and time, not just time stopping them, but like anything else, it's just like, all right, you're using like one of each slot or one of each spell, but you could just do the thing you did earlier in the movie where you freezed like 10 of them at once. I don't know. It's a writing thing, and it's in all movies. It's not just this movie. I'm just nitpicking because I love the movie so much. I have to figure out something to do, and that it was what griped with me with Shazam, and it's minor gripe with this movie.
And I think that's very invalid. I was giving you a hard time just to say I loved it so much.
Leave me alone. Let me hate this movie.
Do you have a favorite character?
I think it was the Druid, which I cannot remember her name again. You just told me.
It's very close to Druid. It's Doric.
Doric
the Druid.
Yeah. I kept saying Druid in my voice, and I'm like, that's from Eternals.
Fair enough.
What's up, Cheryl? Typically, we are live, by the way. If you're watching this after the fact, make sure to like the video and comment down below. But if you're not watching it after the fact, then you are watching it live right now, like Cheryl is, and make sure you like the video.
Wow, we're doing great. It's like this is scripted. No, you can tell it's live because we're rambling, and that's what we tend to do in live videos.
But that's all be edited out.
It won't. What was I gonna say? What I loved Zinc, I think his name is.
Okay.
Raise John Page, the Paladin.
Oh, gotcha. Uh-huh.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like XENK, I think.
Oh, okay.
The whole the lead up to him and like how he was poised to be just this like perfect paladin legend thing. The way he delivered every line I thought was so perfect, and I love the dynamic between him and Chris Pine. He had so much more faith in Chris Pine than he deserved. I had a lot of fun with the paladin.
Absolutely. I thought there was going to be a twist to him, right? I thought they were going to be setting him up to be this thing, and then he's like, turns on. He's too perfect. Why would he ever be? But no, he just like, hey, I helped you on this one quest. Now it's my time to go.
You know, and then he shows up at the end to get Forge.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming up the same way over the hill. And I was watching a review today of this movie where it was somebody from a Dungeons and Dragons fan point, and they're like, the paladin was often the dungeon master. Like they have this little folder, right? So you can't see what they're plotting, what they're writing, and when they're rolling their dice and stuff. But for certain story points, oh my gosh, walk away in a straight line.
He's coming up on a boulder. What's he gonna do?
He's gonna go right
over it. Nope, he walked right over it. It was perfect.
This movie had at no point lost its sense of identity. But what I was gonna say is often in the story, your dungeon master will come out with a character, and your dungeon master plays that character with the party, right? And that person always has like the most knowledge. They're always stronger than everybody. You always wish that they would stay with you for the entire campaign because they're so overpowered. And that's what the paladin totally was.
Right.
He came in there, he kicked everybody's ass, he knew everything about everything, he provided them with the magic thing. He's like, well, this is your journey, bye. And I was like, and again, for the movie that we're watching, without knowing anything, it works, right? It was funny. Everyone had a good time with it. But it's definitely also in line with playing a campaign.
Absolutely. Yeah, it worked out. Yeah, you have to come in and be like, all right, cool. You're like an NPC in a game. Imagine like Jumanji, and when that guy Rice Darby's, right? He shows up at the beginning and goes, here is the magical token you need to take to the mountaintop. Okay, bye. And then he leaves. It's like, all right, well, you set us on our way, but you obviously know way more about this world, and we need more information. And you're gone. Okay, I guess
they could have just like sent Zinc after Neverwinter and like situation handled, right?
Right. Absolutely. He would have been too good in that situation. It was a good time all around. I really loved the movie. I mean, we're coming up on 30 minutes here, so let's start wrapping it up. But where do you think? Was there any last moments you want to say about this movie? Where do you think they could take it if you had to write the beginning of a second film? Which character would you want to see go off, maybe start a new group, or just do a whole new group? Is there a story thread you want to follow?
I honestly, there is so much different. Like Neverwinter in this part of the world is just like a glimpse, a blip on the radar for all the different things that happen in D&D. So I would love them to just go somewhere else, go to another coast. Let's get more. We saw a dwarf in the maze, right? I'd like to see more dwarfs, more elves, more there's people that are made out of like water and fire, and more lizard people, and like just dude, there's so many other things you could do. And then we got Forge was technically supposed to be a rogue, but there's also the rogues that are like sneaking around with the daggers and the smoke bombs and like that type of rogue, more like Diablo version. I'd like to see some of that. I want to see more. I would love to see these characters, but I don't need to see them again.
Sure.
Even though I enjoyed them, I think they could make us fall in love with characters again, probably. And I think that's the most important part. And that's another reason why you keep coming back to playing the game, is you're loving, who you're playing with and your friends. So I want to feel like I'm jumping to a campaign with friends again.
Something I would like to see, which we saw a glimpse of in this, is when the first red first red wizards, like culling, whatever that was, where the guy he took over the council of red wizards, killed them. He started killing the people who were gathered.
This was in the city of Thane.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yes, exactly.
Whenever I remember something, I'm like, point.
So Zinc was there, right? So he was a child, right? He was running away, and he was getting enveloped by this smoke, and that's why it started to turn him, and that's why he had the tattoo on his forehead.
Right.
I thought that was pretty cool. So let's dive more into possibly I think it would be cool to see like an what are they called? Not an arbiter, but a
Paladin.
No. So it's not a character name. So someone who goes against their creed or whatever. So basically, I want to see a red wizard that turns good. So that they have it's a redemption story. I think that'd be pretty cool if they're like, I'd never signed up for this. I was just cursed. I was just in a crowd and I just became this because I was cursed or something to that effect, right? And they're like, I want to fight against them. I have all their powers. I think it'd be cool. And like I'm on this quest to cleanse myself, essentially. So I think that'd be pretty cool.
I would love to see Doric again. I know that you had a really good time with her. When she was an owlbear at the end fighting Sophina and basically did the Hulk smash, I almost peed.
Okay.
She just grabbed like to the ground.
Yes.
So yeah, really any of that. Maybe we can get the return of Bradley Cooper. I think would be fun.
Yes. Oh, I forgot the cameo. Bradley Cooper was in this. That was honestly hilarious. Yeah.
That was good. And then I love that he found his big woman replacement, and at the end Michelle Rodriguez sees that other halfling and just kind of bites her lip, and that's a good time. It's a good time. I hope that not to plan out their foreseeable career, but I forget their name right now. I think John Francis Daly might be one of them, but the guys that worked on Game Night worked on this. As long as they don't have other aspirations, I would love for them to kind of shepherd this D&D verse, because this tone for me is it. It might not work for everybody, but this is what I would like to see continue.
Sure. They were originally supposed to be making the Flash movie. Remember
they were,
that?
And it probably would have been a better movie for it.
Yeah. Well, reports are that it's a fantastic movie, and that's why they're still pushing the movie out. But I'm curious that what it would have ended up being. And then also in the sense of like, give them another superhero movie or something, or just have them do a sequel to this before they move on. Maybe be like a shepherd in this universe.
Yeah. Instead of doing a DC movie, they could have a universe.
True. Absolutely, they could be the showrunner. The executive producer.
They could be the Feige of D&D,
of the D&D universe for Universal Paramount. There we go. Mm-hmm. Paramount needs some content. Why not put it out on Paramount Plus?
They needed this.
Do some spin-offs, do some TV shows, do some animated and live action shows.
Maybe deserves a lot more than a 40 million opening.
Absolutely. Did you see the little advertisement skit they did on
with Sam Levine?
With Sam Levine, yeah. and Martin Starr. That was a good time. I never watched Freaks and Geeks. I didn't see it, but I knew that they were all three in it. Mm-hmm. But I knew him from Bones because I watched like all 12 seasons of Bones or whatever it was, and he was the doctor in Bones for like 8 seasons or something in a row. John Francis Daly was. So that was like, oh yeah, I knew that guy. It was a good time.
Cheryl was asking how busy the theaters were that we were in. So both the times I went, it was the 2 Sundays. It's the only showing that day.
Yeah,
it was a special advance showing. Both of those were packed.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been to a public one yet, so I don't know. Monday I might.
I also went to the last Sunday's advanced screening, so I saw it 6 days earlier or whatever it was. I'll tell you what, I had 3 tickets. I already talked about this earlier. My kids bailed on me, so when I had texted my group to see if anyone wanted to join me before I returned the tickets. So as I got to the theater 5 minutes before showtime, that's when I returned those other 2 tickets and just went with the 1 ticket. Someone bought them because people sat right next to me. So there was obviously demand for it because they had purchased the tickets within 10 minutes of me returning the tickets. So they went back up on for sale on the website. So I guess there was quite the demand. I think the theater was relatively full, but again, what Jesse said, there was 1 showtime per theater, only on that Sunday.
Cheryl asked a good question, and I'm not really sure how to answer it. She said the advanced showings don't count for box office, though, right? I'm not entirely sure how that works because when you do weekend box office, you do Friday through Sunday. I don't know at what point they add those numbers in. Do we not see those numbers until the end of the theatrical run? They just tag them on top. I'm not entirely sure.
I'm gonna Google the box office currently.
Oh, Brian, great question. The question that a lot of people are asking says, question for people who don't play D&D, would they enjoy it? Would they, Sean?
I believe so. I do not play D&D. However, I am well versed in video games that deal with similar types of characters, such as barbarians and wizards and druids, etc. So if you have any interest in just storytelling and specifically like video games, then yeah, you'll absolutely enjoy it. But even then, it's a fun story. I would say don't get bogged down in attempting to remember every name and location that they throw at you, because there are a lot of them. And just go along with the comedy and the heartfelt story they're trying to tell.
Do you need to read Lord of the Rings to enjoy the movies?
No.
No.
Never read Lord of the Rings. No.
Same with D&D, I think.
Yeah.
Like, if you can grasp the concepts of what's going on and you can have fun in a fantasy world, that's all you need to know. Mm-hmm. This movie is not asking to play like inside baseball. It's very accessible. I think kids are going to love it. Families are going to love it. I think, ironically, what's working the most against it is the title of the film, Dungeons and Dragons. I think that makes a lot of people feel isolated.
Interesting.
All the people that don't play, they think maybe this is very much for a niche audience. And I think the biggest uphill battle this movie is going to have is proving to everyone, based on reviews and everything else, that it's not for a niche audience. This movie is for pretty much everybody, except for Lauren's friend that has no taste. Who I hope watches this on repeat.
And it's very much, it deals with family stuff, family dynamics too. It's absolutely. I mean, there's some action and a lot of fighting. I wouldn't call it gore though. No, it's nothing worse than your kids watch on TV nowadays. So,
and there's nothing really scary either, and there's not really blood, and there's not anything overly dramatic. It's pretty light and fluffy. There's a little bit of sadness towards the end, but then it turns around and jokes come right after.
This is the perfect description too. Cheryl saying, she played D&D once and didn't like it, but liked the movie a lot. Perfect. There you go. So I'm looking at Box Office Mojo, which currently only has the Friday total for 15 million, and that's domestic. And then worldwide, that's the world. So I don't think they're not up to date. I mean, Deadline says opening to 40 million.
Which is a projection at this point.
They're not.
They're just trying to track it, and it could very well supersede that. And I think word of mouth just keeps getting better. Rotten Tomatoes scores actually it keeps going up. It was in the 80s for a while. It's up to 91%.
It's trying to see if they are counting the pre-shows.
Cheryl, I'm planning on seeing it on Monday. Said go see it, so it counts towards the box office.
I would imagine. So you know what? If it wasn't a second weekend opening against Mario, I was gonna say it would probably have a very small drop off, but Mario is gonna make 100, I think, and $1 billion overall. So I
still think it's gonna, and I hope it has a respectable drop off, but yeah, it's gonna have its legs kind of cut out from under it a little bit, because if it wasn't for Mario, D&D would be one of those rare instances where it could probably come close to almost going up 1% or something. I think from opening weekend, because I think more people want to see it now than they did opening week. It's kind of what it feels like, and I think Paramount knew that, and that's why they had all these opening showings to get this word of mouth rolling. Because I don't think people are going to come see this on faith.
Right.
I don't think people were sold on this property. It took word of mouth, which has been great.
Yeah.
Anyways, I had an excellent time with this movie. I hope to see it again. This would be a fun watch along to do on the channel one day. Maybe when it comes out on streaming. Maybe a good one.
Absolutely. It'd be a good time.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. That's all I got.
Cheryl, wait until you see the movie. I'm giving Mario a chance. I'm really excited to see it. The kids are excited. We're going to see it Monday at 7:30, or not Monday. We're going to see Wednesday at 7:30. So we'll report back.
I'm seeing it Wednesday at 8 something.
There you go. Right after we get off work.
And then I got tickets for Mario right now and Renfield. Guardians of the Galaxy tickets go on sale Monday. So yeah. Hi. Look at that. Do you see that? There's a goblin. There's a goblin in the shadows.
The goblin peeked through the door.
All right, guys.
Jesse's being beckoned, so we might as well sign off here. Thank you to Cheryl and Brian for showing up in the chat. I hope you guys have liked this video, and I hope everyone else who watches this after the fact has liked. And please comment on the video too. Just give us like a thumbs up, thumbs down. Give us your review of the film, whether you liked it. Give us a rating out of 10 or 5 or 100 or whatever.
Give us a rating out of 20 in honor of the 20-sided die.
Roll I think it rolls for me a natural 17. I don't know. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
I give it about, I give
17,
it about
is there a bonus on initiative or anything? Just
I don't
kidding.
know.
Sounds great.
I'd give it more than an 8 out of 10, less than a 9 out of 10. So
I think that's fair.
Give it about a 17 overall. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and we will see you on the next time we do a thing. Bye. Peace.
Like